Hello, everyone. My name is Nahed Mansour, and I'm the Curator of Programs and Education at the Gardner Museum. Thank you for joining today's clay demonstration featuring ceramic artist Marissa Y Alexander. You will notice your mics and videos are muted and the chat option has been disabled. However, there will be a Q&A following today's conversation, and so we invite you to send us questions through the Q&A function at any point. As you may notice, closed captioning is also enabled. Please note that the closed captioning is automated and any information that appears is not reviewed for accuracy. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that Toronto is located on the treaty lands and ancestral territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Petun, and the Mississaugas of the Credit Nation. The community we work in is the home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to learn and live on this land. As part of our Gardner Goes Outside programs, today's virtual artist demo features Marissa Y Alexander. Marissa currently works and lives in Hamilton, Ontario. She builds with clay to make both functional and sculptural ceramic objects. She is interested in the process of discovering form through coil building and establishing alluring surfaces, creating pattern and narrative to visually describe her vision. Marissa received her MFA in ceramic art from Alfred University 2019 and was previously a full-time artist in residence at Harbourfront Center. She has a BA in sociology from McMaster University and an advanced diploma in craft and design ceramics from Sheridan College. 3 of Marissa's work are currently featured as part of the museum's Gardner Goes Outside programs under the title Dream Together. The works are displayed in our Laura Dinner and Richard Rooney Window Gallery and are accompanied by an audio tour. Hosting today's demo is Toronto-based artist Habiba El-Sayed, who will also present works in our window gallery later in the summer. Inspired by Islamic architecture and human vulnerability, Habiba combines clay and variety of materials, performative and temporal techniques to illustrate her concepts. She recently completed a 3-year-long residency at Harbourfront Center in Toronto and is a Creativity Everything Connection Fellow until October 2021. I'll now turn off my video and mic and hand it over to Habiba and Marissa.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am so excited to get to see Marissa in action. Marissa and I go way back. We went to school together and we went to Harbourfront together. And it's been a long time since I've seen her in action building. And really excited to get to have this conversation with her. So please enjoy what is going to be coming, and please ask any questions that you have in the Q&A, and we'll try to answer that towards the end. So I'll hand it over to you, Marissa. Let us know what you're going to be working on today.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm going to be just kind of building up some forms that I started yesterday to prepare for this. So I have a couple of vessels going, and I'm just going to be adding to them with coils as we have our conversation. Yeah, I'm using white stoneware. I know there's people out there who want to know all the details. But yeah, so I'll just be doing some coiling.
So I think a good place to start as you're working, could you let us know what draws you to coil building as your technique of choice?
Yeah, coiling. I mean, there was a point where I was doing a lot of throwing, like in my Harbourfront days, but coiling is just very freeing to me. There's no like, I feel like I can kind of go anywhere. There's no real limits. And I also am drawn to kind of the pace, the slowness, and even like kind of building up something one day and then letting it get stiff, and then coming back the next day and making those decisions, whether to add stuff or to remove stuff. I mean, you can do that with any type of technique, I guess, but I think I just like the slowness and kind of the contemplation that can occur when you're waiting for things to be ready for the next step.
Yeah, that definitely has like this very meditative quality to it.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm drawn to things that kind of take like a lot of labor and are kind of like very time consuming.
Mhm.
Yeah. So here I built this up yesterday. So this is like 2 fat coils pinched out. And I'm just gonna add this little piece here. This is gonna be the bottom, and then I'm gonna add a foot and I'll flip it over. So I'm just kind of establishing this bottom part. Just using water and not a slip.
Mhm. Speaking of water, so your glazes are very flowy, and it is like you feature these figures that are swimming. It just shows that you have this clear affinity to water. So is there a significance to water in your work?
I mean, I'm a Pisces. That's one thing, like straight out the gate. But other than that, I mean, I am really drawn to water, and I love being around it and being in it. Especially for the work that's on display, from my Swim With Me series, I was definitely thinking about water then. That was like at the beginning, more of the like intense lockdowns, I guess, and just feeling super restricted. And I feel like water kind of, it's totally flowing. It goes in any direction. And even just like my memories of being in water or being near it or like being at cottages just kind of like bring me to this calm space. And I just feel like my personality is kind of like also like going with the flow, pretty easygoing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like as long as I've known you, I kind of feel like that is your personality. You are very much like water.
Yeah, my sister, I mean, everyone is an element, right? I think she thinks that I'm water. She always would tell me that. Um, but yeah, even like living in like Southern Ontario here, we're close to a really big lake. And when I was living in New York State and not having that like availability of like being able to drive 10 minutes and go to a huge body of water, like I really missed it. And I didn't really realize how much I love it, being close to it and having it like be easy to access.
So the piece that you're making right now, that's going to be the bottom of it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm always starting this way now, like reverse, because I want the round bottom, but also I tend to make things that are really narrow at the bottom, like the foot. And this just gives me the ability to like make the form large um, without having to like build from such a small point, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really smart actually. And I think it's good because it sort of shakes up the way you would have to make something.
It's also like exciting to like flip it over and
Yeah.
everything totally changes.
Yeah, for sure.
I used to have or I do have like a hump mold, but then everything kind of ends up being the same. So I avoid using it and just start with like fat coils.
I think like the tendency for a lot of makers is to create this flat base and then it just gets all very similar.
Yeah.
So it is a really smart way of making.
And that's like in my mind too, like all of my professors or teachers, when they're always like criticizing flat bottoms, they're like, what happens if you turn it over? Or that's like in my memory as well.
I still hear our profs' voices saying that at times.
So that like way of working, like always kind of moving things around and flipping things over is like part of a way that I work, I guess. Just it's like part of me now.
So I'm a little bit curious about your choice to create vessels because it seems like a lot of your pieces are still within that vessel realm. Do you consider them more of a canvas for your surfaces, or is there a significance to creating vessels for you?
I definitely treat it as a surface, but I think anything I would make, it would kind of I would treat it the same way. But yeah, definitely making vessels is a conscious like decision. It definitely like reflects my education, I think, like going into ceramics at Sheridan in particular, where I mean, I went into it thinking I would do like sculpture and like figurative stuff and things that I never have done before. But when you get into the program, you make pots and that kind of just stuck with me. It also is a way to like explore form in a way, like through coiling, through building vessels. I'm able to explore. I don't know. It's just a way that I can find a form, I guess, in a way that in my mind is like it's kind of steeped in a tradition, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. And also just kind of elevating the idea of a pot, or and it's not just a vessel, but it's also a sculpture. It's both.
Definitely. And the way that you usually approach these vessels is in a very sculptural way. I think particularly with the double walled forms that you create and the rims of them as well, they are very sculptural objects.
Yeah.
So another question that I had was about joy. And I feel like your work really evokes a sense of joy, and like the figures themselves always like look very relaxed and joyful. And I guess considering like what the world is like, and that's so many things that we've been experiencing over the last couple of years, but in general, I just wonder, like, is highlighting joy a conscious choice for you in your work?
Yes, definitely. I feel like for a long time that's been like a choice, especially when you, I don't know, like as a person of color in this space, as a Black person in ceramics, like there's a lot of, I mean, in any medium, a lot of the work of that identity is like, it can be very traumatic itself. And I kind of feel like there's enough. I mean, like personally for myself, like just seeing things in the world and looking at news and whatever it is every day. Being able to make work that is just not kind of reflecting that, obviously, is important to me, not only for what I want a viewer to perceive, but also like what I'm doing with my time and how I want to, like what I want to fill my head with when I'm working. Yeah, it's stuff I'd rather make work that makes me feel joyful and excited than anything else right now, especially.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess that kind of leads into my other question about just like it seems like there is more space that's being made for people of color and Black artists and Indigenous artists, but there's often this expectation for them to create identity work that is so based in trauma. How do you approach identity in your work, especially when you are trying to sort of move away from some of those narratives there?
Yeah. It's like a good, like, big question. Can you repeat part of it again?
Yeah, sure. Just that with these expectations to create work, identity-based work that is more highlighting trauma, what do you do, or like how do you approach identity in your work? Like how is it that you show yourself about being being Black or being a person of color, or any of your experiences in your work that maybe moves away from that trauma narrative?
Yeah. Well, it's like I am what I am, right? Like I'm a woman, I'm a Black person, I'm white, I'm a maker, I love beautiful things. I feel like no matter what the narrative is or what you're making, it is like I am what I am and myself is in there. I don't need to always like, because I did for a time, I think, feel like this pressure to like make it known that this is what I am, and like it was like really important to me. But I feel like I'm at a place just in general where I don't feel like I need to constantly like tell people what I am, or like what my thoughts are about all of these different issues that are going on. I'd rather just kind of be myself, and through that, I'm able to, discuss my identity, because I am all of these different things. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
absolutely. Yeah, for sure it does. Like I definitely like have experienced some of that in my own stuff, and I kind of know what that pressure feels like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So just make just make work. It just, you're just putting
Yeah.
yourself in it as it is. So
I remember hearing this, sorry, it's like hard to
do both.
work at the same time. But like I heard or I read something about the same kind of conversation. And it's just like, if you're a Black artist and you want to just paint flowers and like make clouds, like that's totally fine. You don't have to like be, yeah, like pressured to make a certain thing, just especially in this moment. Yeah, that kind of just stuck with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's something that I really am drawn to with your work. It's just like it's just so beautiful, and there it isn't necessarily, you speaking about something. It's just like this is an experience, and I'm putting it out there on my work. So that's something that I really appreciate.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking like the figures that I have, and yeah, like I just have memories, not just within ceramics, but just like life in general, being mixed and trying to, like, especially when I was young, just trying to like prove something or like make sure it's known that other, like what I am. And yeah, so I feel like I've moved on from that like mentality entirely.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. So do you want to tell us what you're doing?
Yeah. I'm just rolling a coil if you want to switch the. I'm just gonna roll a big coil to put as a foot ring on this pot that I'm doing. I tend to roll pretty thick coils and just kind of pinch up and kind of use my hands to like push in or push out. We'll just do that. And I'm just, I didn't really press it down when I put it on, so I'm just making sure it's stuck nice.
So as you're making, do you kind of just go with it organically, like how the form is going to be, or do you think about it in advance or plan it out quite a bit?
No. um, yeah, I always feel like I should do that and plan everything out, but no matter how many times it's told to me or how often I think about it, it never works that way. So I'm definitely just a person who starts and then like through coiling, because it's slow and I can think as I go. Think things kind of develop as I go. And like if I start something and then I'm coming back the next day, like when I'm at home, I'll definitely like think about it the whole time, or like take pictures and look and kind of think about it at that point. But it's never really like um, thought about before I start, I guess. Other than maybe, like making a round shape or like a simple form to begin with. Yeah. So
Does
not too much planning. Mhm.
does the same go for your surfaces as well? Like, is it just still kind of more just doing it in the moment, or do you kind of like sketch or draw out the
Yeah.
the actual illustrations beforehand?
Um, I usually just like I'm thinking about what I want on the surface, but I'll usually just draw it out on the actual form. Um, like I might have little elements, like maybe like a particular kind of leaf or like flower, um, or like a gesture, like the way the figure is laid out, but I kind of just go for it on the pot. I feel like I've gotten really used to drawing on 3 dimensions. Um, I'm trying to like create a better drawing practice with my work, but that's like another thing that I get told and think about a lot, but don't. It's not as easy to do.
Yeah, 'cause I was gonna ask you about that, if like you do
It's
any kind of
hard.
drawing and painting like outside of your ceramics practice.
I have, and like I've done a lot of painting in the past, like before I even started ceramics. Um, but it's not something that I've continued. I feel like because I've done different things and like painting and drawing and even like music, but I feel like the longer I get into ceramics and the longer I'm here, the more like other things fade away, and I just I'm always like doing something with clay uh, every day. Yeah. I would like I have spent some time, like especially recently, drawing like kind of trying to merge like the flower and the figure like in one thing. Um, so I have been trying to spend time like actually figuring out like designs and little like characters, but they haven't made their way to any ceramic thing yet. Um, yeah, I always have the intention of doing that, of drawing a lot or, doodling, which I did a lot of before, but yeah, not as much these days.
Yeah, 'cause I can just imagine some of the like surfaces that you've done, some of these illustrations, like as like huge paintings or something.
I know, and I think about it too. I'm like, sometimes, it's like, why don't I just paint this?
Mhm.
um, it's like there's a lot more less steps um, but it's not the same. I love the like what I'm trying to like perfect or really figure out now with my glazing, like the really intricate kind of surfaces. Um, I'm still really excited about that, and I just don't think it's comparable, like the depth and like the surface and the surprise even of like you know putting all the work in and then hoping that it's gonna be good like in the end. um, it's exciting. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think the those illustrations in glaze are so compelling and beautiful, and like again add to that flowiness and wateriness that like you can't really get with a like flat painted
Yeah.
surface.
Yeah. I agree. And it's like, I know how things are going to kind of turn out just because of all the like the tests and all the other works that I've done, but there's still like little you know, little magical moments all the time, like that never gets old. Like the reveal, I guess. It's
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
exciting.
So going back to what you said about wanting to combine the figure and the flower, I think that kind of plays into one of the questions that I had for you about plant forms in nature. Because as long as I've known you, I feel like you've always sort of used like fruits or plant forms in some way, like in your work. Like what draws you to that, to nature and sort of its importance in your designs?
Well, there's definitely like I use the raspberry fruit a lot, and that has like a very particular memory for me, just connection to my grandparents and my dad, and their home and everything. So that's like a very specific place. But I think just like having a mom and grandparents and who are like obsessed with gardening and spending time in those kinds of spaces. And also I think it's just from, you know, seeing like, you know, the things that you encounter, like objects you encounter in your day-to-day life, like the decorative, I guess. I'm really drawn to that, and just spending or like doing laborious things to make like a beautiful object. And I guess like flowers and botanicals and that kind of thing, you know, lends itself well to that. It also is kind of, this is stuck. Sorry. Yeah, those kinds of things just lend themselves so easily to vessels and to pottery, I guess. And then it's like a natural connection to, yeah, like my family and my memories of the backyards and gardens of my grandparents, and my mom's side with their farm. And yeah, it also is like an abundant thing. Same with fruit, like it just kind of represents this like plentiful abundance, beauty, like fruitfulness, generosity, like those kinds of themes. I'm definitely thinking about those things. Same with like the amount of stuff, like the amount of flowers, or like the intricacy, the intensity of the pattern or placement of the drawings. I think about those things in terms of like being generous and like just like filling space, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
In your compositions are so dynamic, and there's parts that are so full, but like not conflicting, which is something that is like so admirable to me as someone who like shies away from surface.
Mm-hmm. There's like this one thing that John Gill talks about like, you know, like all colors go together. Like you don't have to think so much about, I mean, you can, but you don't have to. Like the way colors are going to interact with each other, like they all just go together. And that kind of sticks out of my memory too. Like I don't have to, you know, worry so much about these little like rules, I guess. Yeah. So I'm just gonna make like a beveled edge here. And then I'll add another coil.
So what's the purpose of creating that beveled edge?
I think it just it's like more of a surface. it's a wider surface, and also it just like the clay fits nicer together, I think. It's like not a big bulky part there. So that's, I usually always, even when I'm like, sometimes I'll bevel my coils, especially like if I'm making smaller objects and I start with like a slab for like cups or bowls or something. I'll bevel the slab and then I'll also bevel the coil. I feel like it just fits nicer, and it's a wider surface.
At this point, as you're making, do you sort of see the next couple of steps of like where this form is going?
Yeah, I think that I would, if I was not, I would like kind of, yeah, I definitely like look at things from the side for sure all the time. I'm like always looking at the line. But yeah, like as I'm going, I can definitely kind of like, you know, see how things are gonna go or try to imagine them. Maybe today, not as much because I'm chatting, but I'm gonna go probably like that.
So what are, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love like this kind of stage of clay where it's really stiff, but you can like continually add and take away, like just the limitless kind of potential of like the stage. I could like be in this stage forever, or I'll keep things really wet and then like I just think about them for so long, and then if you think about it for too long, then you'll like, you know, chop a part off and start again. But yeah.
I get it, man, that like perfect leather hard stage where you can still be adding things and it's not gonna like crack, but you could still take things away and not like make it a complete ball of mush.
Yeah.
Delightful.
I love it.
So I was gonna ask you what some of your inspirations are, and if there are any artists that are influencing you these days.
I think my inspiration is definitely just like through the things that I see like daily, or the things that I'm like listening to or watching. Like when I was at school, I would always bring my laptop with me and like watch like music videos, like old ones, like from the early 2000s, or like, and it's not even the imagery that's inspiring, maybe a little bit like the dancing and like the colors and the outfits and the patterns and everything, but just like the energy and like maybe the nostalgia. And like when Beyonce came out with her like visual album, that was like perfect timing for me. I was yeah, like things like that really inspire me like in the moment. And to be honest, I don't know, just I think because of social media and just like the accessibility of everyone all the time, like, and being inundated with like so much art and whatever, I kind of feel like I avoid sometimes even like looking at what people are doing, or yeah, it like really gets in your head, I think. So especially like recently within the past like couple of years, maybe I've tried to not avoid, but I don't search for like other people's work, to be honest. I'm trying to think of like a particular person right now.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and definitely we can get kind of like bombarded, and then you also begin to see sort of these like homogenized aesthetics forming, because it's just like everybody's working in these similar ways.
It's really obvious.
Yeah.
And I just, because even subconsciously, you know, it's gonna get into your brain and affect like what you do. And I feel like I just at this moment I would rather just, you know, be with myself and try to figure out what I want to be doing without that kind of influence, I guess. And like whenever I mean, I work alone now, but whenever I'm in a like a group setting, like whether it was at school or at Harborfront, like those are the artists that inspire me at the moment, you know, like whoever I'm around. I don't, I'm not a researcher, I guess, in that sense, of looking at other people's stuff for inspiration or, yeah.
Does that include like historical sources as well, or
Yeah, I think so. I've never really been somebody who works that way, I don't think. And it makes me a little bit like feel a little bit like self-conscious even, not having that like research or reference my work, because I feel like, you know, so many artists use those tools to make really amazing stuff. And maybe I will in the future. Maybe it's like a moment thing, but yeah.
yeah, I mean, everybody just has different approaches and different process, and what you're doing seems to be working very well for you.
Yeah, and that's something I have to remind myself of too. Like even just like using coils or doing that kind of glazing that I do, I always I'm always in a headspace where I'm like, well, what can I do to make this faster, or what can I do to make this like more efficient, or and I'm just sometimes I have to remind myself like it's a like, you know, it's fine the way that it is and I don't have to change anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of us come from sort of production schools of thought. And so we kind of get in that mode that's like we have to be doing everything, you know, as you're saying, faster and more efficiently. But
Yeah.
some of the most you know, compelling and interesting parts of this process is the fact that it's slow and that gives you time to contemplate things and ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and I think that's part of the reason why I like the slowness and like drawn towards things that have a slow pace is because I can like, you know, be really productive with my hands, but my mind can like go wherever it wants. Whether that's just kind of like a daydreaming thing or like actually listening to something that's, you know, informing me in a way that's outside of art and ceramics, or it's just like very multifaceted, I guess, multitask kind of thing.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point in your practice, what is something that is exciting you?
Well, I feel excited just to like, I'm presented with a lot of opportunities and I feel like I'm just excited to be busy, I think. And like, because for so long I've been, you know, we both have, because I feel like we kind of, I mean, I think you did it before me, but just from being at Sheridan, like that amount of time, you know, you're always making stuff. And I just, you know, it's like there's like a collection in my basement and it doesn't go anywhere, but you're always compelled to keep making, you know. So now I feel like I have these opportunities and I can actually like make things for a purpose and they're going to be like going somewhere. And even just that is really exciting to me because it's kind of new. And also like the kind of, I feel comfortable where I am making the kind of work that I am, like the like kind of vessel based but sculptural, and I can utilize the like the pattern and the color and the drawing and everything all in one thing. And I think for a long time I was trying to find something that I felt that I could do all those things with, and I feel like I'm kind of there right now. Like I feel fulfilled in that sense. Like I'm not searching for something that's going to make me feel like I'm doing what I should be doing, I guess. So that's exciting. It's kind of freeing. Yeah. In terms of like actual projects or anything, I think I'm just excited to, I have a little bit more of like smaller functional things to make, but then I'm gonna spend like the fall and winter like making more bigger, elaborate things, and I'm excited for that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
It's like cool to hear you say that about like all these different parts coming together of your practice, because
Yeah.
it really shows, like 'cause I have sort of seen you kind of throughout the stages and with
Mhm.
your vessel making and these really meticulously painted designs that you would do, and now just seeing that sort of all sort of come together in these
Mhm.
objects is really exciting from the outside as well.
Yeah, it feels good. And also just coming on or coming to a point where I'm not like, because I make vessels and I feel like for a long time I was trying to like make sculpture that was not a vessel just for the sake of it being a sculpture, I guess. I don't know. But I feel like I don't have to like justify why I'm making a vessel or, you know, and that feels good. I don't know if it's like the kind of the schooling part or it's just so everything is so critical, right? And it's so nice to not always be around that.
Absolutely. I think there's like a lot of, I guess with sculpture too, but there's a lot of like baggage in a way that comes around vessels and like
Yeah.
having to think about functionality and these other aspects that sometimes we can get really into our head about what that means and like
Mhm.
wanting to sort of pull away from it. um, but it seems like you've sort of found this really great balance in
Yeah.
creating these sculptural vessels.
And I kind of get to like work in a way where I had in the past where I'm constantly like moving things around and flipping things over. And so it does really feel sculptural.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I get like all the things that I love about working, I get to experience while I'm making these things. And it's just like, yeah, it feels good.
Mm.
Mhm.
I guess yeah, I feel like I'm asking you too many things and like you're doing stuff, you're thinning things out. Want to like talk about
um,
that?
yeah, so I'm just kind of pinching up. I kind of try to always pinch like, no, this is good. Yeah. Trying to pinch like together to try to avoid things from like totally going horizontal. So I'm constantly like pinching things together. And then I had done another the ceramic congress, and somebody asked me like where I start pinching if there's like a reason for it. And I do think there's a reason for it. I don't know if I can articulate it, but I think like starting to pinch at these round parts. I feel like they're just better control for how the motion um, and like how where the clay ends up.
It also just seems like a really efficient way of making versus using smaller coils. You've just used this really thick one and sort of moving that
Yeah,
material up.
yeah. I always mention Lauren Kaplan wherever I go because I feel like she, I would, I worked in her studio and like would watch her and I'm pretty sure she uses really fat coils. And I feel like that's where this has come from.
Mm.
Instead of using like smaller multiple coils. I've also heard like, there's less connections, so there's less like stress points, but I don't know if that's really true because I don't know, I've gotten weird cracks in weird places. So, but yeah, So this is kind of my process. This is how like everything is made in a similar kind of fashion. You want to maybe change the angle and you can see. I don't know if it's yeah.
Is symmetry important for you, or is it again just sort of more of an organic thing?
No, I think symmetry is definitely something I pay attention to, or I try to at least. I don't use like a lot of like things to measure, but just like symmetrical to my own eye. That is good enough for me. But yeah, like if something is kind of off or not the right proportion or not symmetrical, I'll definitely like, it bothers me and it has to be addressed. But if it's like a little bit, it just depends on how severe that is. Because sometimes I definitely a lot more, I used to really be obsessed with like having things super refined. And I've kind of let that go, I think, which I like. So some things are okay, a little bit off in my mind, in my eye.
I just want to remind people and encourage you to ask questions if you have any. Put those into the Q&A. A question I've gotten asked a few times, and I never really know how to answer it properly, is a question about dream projects. And like, do you have one of those that you kind of have in the back of your mind? You're like, if I had infinite resources and time, and like something that you'd want to create?
I know I don't really have that's a hard question. I mean, it's a fun question, but I haven't like dreamed like about something like that, or think about it, you know, and maybe that says something about like my goals or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe just like building something that's either really large or doing like a really intense, like huge tile installation or something where I can like go crazy with you know, the imagery and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really ever think about that either.
Yeah, I think with your work, as I said, I think I can just imagine like what scale would do. You know, like I think they are so amazing on this smaller scale as well, or like the, you know, the scale that you're working, that they're so detailed and intricate. But it's like I don't know, like interested to see it almost like as like a, what's it like as a mural, or like those kind of things.
Or even like, yeah, like translating different imagery or images into different things. Like, you know, I would love to, you know, like fabric or something, or pattern making, which I mean is totally something I could do. I don't think I need to dream like about it, you know.
Exactly.
Just it would be a matter of actually like doing it. But yeah, like those are things that I think about, that like with my like surface work, how that could be translated into a different medium.
We just have, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm kind of like squeezing this back together.
We just have a question of somebody asking us what clay you're using. I think in the beginning you mentioned it, but if you could just go over
Yeah.
it again.
It's the white stoneware from Pottery Supply House, 519. I don't make my own clay. I buy it. Yeah, I always use 519 or the one that has the grog in it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm used to it, and it's white enough, and yeah, it's structurally good too.
We have another question from somebody asking if there are any tips for beginners who want to start making ceramics.
Tips. I mean, if it's available, a class, that would be good. Maybe just like not having such, I mean, if it's really new to you, not having these like grand expectations. I think I think a lot of people who, well, from like the people that I've taught, a lot of people expect to make something that's really like something that you'd see at the store, or you know, something that your instructor has made. Like, I feel like people have really high expectations, even though they've never done it before. And so maybe just being open that way, I think that makes it just easier to start. Yeah, and trying all of the things, like all of the techniques, having those experiences, and then it just kind of gives you more freedom as to what you can do, and also you get to see what you like and like how you like to make things. And yeah, I would find like a class at a community center or a, yeah, something like that. Does that help?
I'm sure it does. So you just leveled off
Yeah,
your rim there.
yeah, I always cut things off before I start another coil, because it helps me see things more clearly, I think, without like all the distractions of the different levels of the final coil. And then I'm just kind of looking always at this side, or at the profile, I guess, and just adjusting things, or like pushing things out or pushing things in so that they're the way that I want them.
We also have another question about somebody wanting to start ceramics, and what kind of supplies should they look for or buy or purchase in order to make a piece of ceramic work.
I don't think you need very much. Like, I can show you the tools that I have, if that's helpful. Just like ribs, like in general, I use a lot for kind of evening out surfaces or scoring, and then just different shapes to kind of fit the contour of whatever you're doing. But yeah, so ribs, I would say some kind of like wooden sculpting tool. What else do you need? A sponge, some kind of knife, cut clay, a wire. I don't know. These are like the only tools that I use. So, and maybe like a sure form. It's another tool that I use. Paddle. Yeah. You don't need very much, I don't think, to actually form an object. You know, you could literally just use your hands.
That is a very nice thing about ceramics, is that, you know, you can do so much with just the clay in your hands like that.
Yeah.
Your hands are
I know
a great tool.
you can do so much with so little, or you can go like really crazy and get like the latest tool. Like there's so many people like that who are obsessed like with their just like a tool that does, you know, like one like specific thing, and then you have that for like every kind of thing there is. I think it's funny. So I'm just gonna flip this over. Just gonna cut this off. I would probably wait to flip this over because it's still kind of soft, but it's pretty, this coil at the bottom is pretty thick, so it will be okay. So with this kind of thing, I would just kind of score it up and put more clay there to refine that surface. I think for the people who have like an inkling to start, they should definitely start, because it's such like a, I mean, it's limitless, but also it's just like working with clay is like a really, you know, kind of therapeutic material to work with, like just physically.
I think we're coming around the end of the demo. We have a few more minutes. If you have any last questions, that would be the time to throw that in there. Otherwise, we can just watch Marissa continue with this vessel.
Oops. Yeah, and these will probably become the double-walled thing eventually at some point. I just love the, like, I mean, I know that it's double-walled, but like just knowing that there's like space in there, and kind of the contrast of like the top being like super flat and kind of like architectural with like the roundness, and yeah, I don't know why, but I really love having that element, even if like people don't understand what it is or how. It just does something, I feel. I don't know, I can't articulate.
No, there's a certain kind of volume that you get with a double-walled vessel that is just not the same in any other form of making, I feel. And that kind of like thick, like that sort of thickness, like it's really satisfying.
It is.
Where would you start, like, to create that next wall?
Yeah. I usually start like, I'll usually make it closer to the top. But I've been thinking like, you know, what if the whole, like, what if there was like a tube in here, you know, that connected eventually? And if it would, like, if it was for function, it would be more functional, just because like there would be that smaller space. But I'm also somebody who thinks a lot about like the weight of things and like how much clay I'm using, and like, because I like to kind of be independent, and I don't like things to be so heavy that I can't like easily move them myself without anyone around. So I think about that a little bit too, like how much is necessary. But yeah, I would usually, like, if this was to come in, I would like, I would start building again off of like the side, and then eventually those two things would like meet. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if that is clear.
Yeah,
but
no, I'm glad you mentioned that, because somebody was asking what the double-walled means. But yeah, those two walls kind of being
Yeah,
built up
maybe
and attaching.
like for this piece, like I could start building again off of like this side and like continue building here. And then eventually it could like meet again. Sorry, I'm off the screen. But yeah.
So thank you so much. That really helps. And thank you for
Yeah.
showing us these.
And then it would meet.
Yes. Thank you so much for demoing and answering those questions. It was so lovely to watch you work again and to chat with you.
Thank
but
you.
yeah.
Thank you for all your questions. They were so good. And
And
it's always nice chatting with you and seeing you. Always.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to everybody who joined as well. We really appreciate you coming out and asking your questions as well.
Thank you.